Hey, folks, welcome to the Generational Gap. John, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right.
Pouring one on, I see.
Mm-hmm. It's a Monday.
It's a Monday. Just a shooting the shit kind of day, right?
That's right.
Anything exciting
Sure.
happening for you?
Yeah, me and Midget B went to the Scottish Highland Games yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, it was a lot
Now,
of fun.
now, Scottish Highland Games is that is that just a different take on like Monopoly and
No,
Scrabble?
it's all feats of strength.
Feats of strength. Did you
That's right.
enter any games to test your feats
No,
of strength? All right.
no, I'm pretty sure they take a little bit of training.
Yeah.
Some of those guys out there are pretty huge.
Tossing the telephone poles, as it were.
That's right. Picking up big ass rocks, throwing them, hammers, throwing them.
So, welcome to the show, folks. We've got ourselves an interesting little hour here. We got a few things that we're just going to talk crap about. Nothing terribly exciting. I don't know if we got anybody in the chat. John, have you seen anybody lurking around? Do
Nope,
we
not yet.
have our resident midget? At least we need midget.
I haven't seen him yet. I was talking to him before the show, though.
Because if I
Uh,
don't have somebody beside you insulting me, it's just not a well-rounded night.
that's right. No, we're actually going to be having our very own Midget B on the show either Friday or Monday. So we'll get with him and see when he can and what's up.
Yeah,
So
he's
it'll be
gonna.
fun.
We got to make sure he's on video though, because yeah, he can go incognito mode if he wants. We can do an incognito session,
Oh yeah, speaking of that,
so that way the FBI won't find him. But
gotta do my uniposer.
uniposer.
Uh, shit.
Well, there we go, folks. Here's our technical difficulties for the evening. At least it wasn't the beer, right?
What? All right.
I said at least it wasn't the beer. It was just the sunglasses. And you keep taking the headphones off every time
There
I
we
say
go.
it. Every time I said
Yeah,
that, you took the headphones off.
it's because I
It's
don't want to hear what
really,
you have to say.
really all right. Hey, so John, there was
Yeah.
some interesting stuff going on in the sky last night. I don't know if you're aware of that. Were I believe you told me you didn't really get much of a chance to go out and see it.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I had to go to bed and such.
we had a nice big, what was it, the blood wolf moon, the full
Yeah.
lunar eclipse last night. It's quite interesting to see. I thought it was quite beautiful. Of course, the only downside to it is it happens, rather late at night for someone my age. Of course, you were in
Right.
bed earlier than I was, but my wife and I went out to my old school to check it out. They were having at the planetarium there was having a big viewing party, and I will use the term party loosely because I don't, if you can picture a bunch of amateur stargazers with their fun little telescopes and everything all set up all around this small pond slash lake thing they have at the college,
Yeah.
pointing up at the sky and talking about really nothing terribly interesting, but it was kind of fun seeing some stuff. But we weren't there very long because man, it was cold for Florida. It was
Yeah, it
really
was
damn
really
cold,
cold.
right?
Yep.
And the whole thing started at like 8 o'clock, and of course the eclipse doesn't actually start till 10. Didn't start till like 10:30. Um, One of my main motivations to go out there was that they were going to be giving away a telescope, which was awesome because I'm like, oh, I could really enjoy winning a telescope, right? Because I've been wanting to get one to replace one I used to have.
Hell yeah.
And they showed it, and it's this. It was they showed this image, and I didn't look it up because it was a barrel, one of the barrel telescopes, right? You know what a barrel telescope is? The one with the big body, big round body, but
Oh,
but
okay. Yeah,
shorter,
yeah.
not the long. Uh, what's that
I
thing
got you.
that pirates use?
The spyglass.
Yeah, not the spyglass shape, but yeah, that barrel.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, cool, I want to go win that. when we get there, we're standing in line, and the first 80 people there were going to get a T-shirt to commemorate Moon Week that they had been doing all week there at the planetarium at the school. So we were there. We were about fifth in line waiting to get our T-shirt. And I look on the table and I see the telescope. And it's a desktop telescope. It was about 6 or 7 inches tall. It was like 72 millimeter telescope, so it's still a reasonably good telescope, right?
Yeah.
And it was made by Celestron, but it was just small. It's like a $60 telescope. I didn't realize they made actually decent telescopes in such a small size. But I looked at it, and then we started talking about it, and it's like, well, they're not going to draw the telescope for the telescope till 11 o'clock at night.
Oh,
And
yeah.
we are at 8 o'clock, and it's already cold, and we're expecting at least 2 to 3 degrees drop in the next 3 hours. And we talked about it. We're like, yeah, I don't know that we're going to stay for this whole thing.
Yeah.
And but there was something interesting that happened there that kind of gave me hope. I talked to you a little bit about this off mic, but while we're standing in line, there's a young gentleman who was standing just a little off from where I'm at. And I see him. He's a nice looking young man. I would say in his very early 20s, right? And I noticed him mostly because he was talking and there was nobody around. He was talking to himself, but he's telling himself, "Okay, I've got my cards, and here's my cards, and I need to put my cards out, and I need to have my cards ready, and then I'll give the card to the people, and I'll do this, and I'll do this," and I will not cast disparagements because I don't know for sure, but it had that very, very strong sense of a high functioning autistic, right? Just the way he was doing it. But so, and he's starting to inch closer to me. So I realize I'm going to be the first person he's going to talk to, and he's getting these cards ready for. And of course, in my head, I'm like, okay, what is this going to be? So he looks at my wife and I, and he says, "Hey, where are you folks from? Are you're from Seminole County?" I said, "No, we're from Orange County." And he's like, "Oh, well, y'all drove a long way to get." It's really not that far. It's like a 30-minute drive,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it's not that far, but in Florida, everywhere is far if you look at the mileage, right?
Right.
But he walks up, and this young man, he presents us both with a business card, and he says, "My name is Andre Class, and I am running for Seminole County Seminole County Commission, District 5.
There you go.
And I was like, wow,
Yeah,
awesome.
that's awesome.
Here is a kid, maybe fresh or still in college. And
Yeah.
here he is pursuing this. He's ready to go. Hey, there's Dante Gibson in the room. What's up, Dante? How
Hey,
you
what's
doing
up,
tonight?
man?
But yeah, so here's this kid, college-age kid, ready to pursue his dreams. And this is like a slicky gloss. He didn't cheap on the cards, nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
they've got all great information how to contact him, paid for by Andre Class, libertarian for Seminole
Yeah,
County Commission.
my dude.
So we've got a libertarian, trying to get an agenda going forward, get himself on the ticket. He's starting early because we're not looking for elections till 2020. Again, a smart kid getting started, making that campaign happen. Catch me up. Oh, we're Dante. We're not. We're right now. We just got started. We're just talking a little bit about the eclipse last night, and went to a viewing party at my college, and was talking about this young kid who decided he was going to. He's decided he's going to run for county commissioner out in Seminole County here in Florida. And I was really impressed with this kid. I really was. It's one of those things where it's because I tell our teenagers or our young kids that we have here in the house, and I said, look, the key to if you're going to have an opinion, if you want to make a difference, you've got to get involved in these things, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't just sit around and have an opinion and speak it into a vacuum where
Go
it
onto
does no
Facebook.
good. Get out there and do something. And we have a friend, we've got our friend who
Hmm.
his goal, his intention is to be president when he hits
Yeah.
35 years old, right? Or as soon as he can after
Yeah.
35. And this is important. I think it's great. I was very thrilled, and I was kind of sad. I'm like, I'm not in Seminole County, but damn, if I could, I
Yeah.
would.
I mean, I am. I'll
This
vote for him.
I would ask for his information, right? What do you stand on? What are your talking points? Where are you at? What
Well, I
I
mean, the
mean,
fact that he says he's a libertarian, you can kind of guess,
well,
or at least the guiding principles that will,
sure,
guide his political career.
but I will
So,
say that one of the things that I always think about whenever we talk about libertarians is there's a I don't know, it's been so long, it's been just a two-party system,
yeah,
and really finding a way for a libertarian to mesh into that and make change, and along with where we're at with
yeah.
policies, because you know a long time ago, if you said libertarian to me, I'm expecting for a libertarian to actually be in any kind of position of power. We're going to need some sort of revolution. It's going to take dismantling the government for libertarians to really, right?
Well, I mean,
Um,
they make local elections all the time. There's a lot of libertarians at like local level positions. It's when they start getting to like, the state senate and higher up in the federal government, you're not going to see as many of them, other than like Rand and Ron Paul.
well, let me ask you this, John. How many libertarians do you think get their starts in low-level politics, but those that actually do begin to move
Hmm.
upwards, and move closer to Washington or into Washington? How many of those libertarians actually shift and choose one of the two
Republican. They
parties?
usually choose Republican. Yeah,
Um,
they do usually go Republican.
so, is that a failure on the part of the Libertarian Party, um,
Uh,
that
yeah,
that they sell out? That it's like the only way we're going to get anything is to just go ahead and pick one of these two sides.
right, exactly. It's I don't want to say it's like a capitulation, but it's like a compromise. Saying okay, the Republican Party is the closest to like libertarian values, so they'll go to that, and then usually with the goal of I'm going to change the party from the inside, which doesn't happen, but that's usually the intention when they go into it, and then they're going to try and try and like compromise, be like, all right, I'll give you this as a Republican, but you need to give me this, as a libertarian. And
Right.
so they'll kind of try and, weasel certain policies into the Republican Party. And I don't think it's working. I think that the National Party needs to, uh, gain more prominence. And it really is. It's the fastest growing party, fastest growing third party in the country. So hopefully within my lifetime, there'll be at least a serious contender.
Yeah, it would be nice to see a third-party candidate on the stage once we get past the primaries.
Yeah.
To see somebody be able to stand up there and go against the two parties and actually get their agenda heard. But I'm,
If it wasn't for Trump in the last election, I think Rand Paul would have made it a lot further than he did. Because Trump really just kind of swept everyone else aside.
yeah, but
You know,
would was was Rand Paul not running as a Republican though?
yeah, he
See,
was.
and that to
Yeah,
me tells me you've sold out. Like,
yeah.
okay,
I'm not a big
granted you
fan of
haven't
the.
sacrificed all your views and where you stand, but you, as you said, you capitulated to one of the two parties because your libertarian agenda is not strong enough yet to get
It's
the
also not
votes that you
super.
need in the
It's also
primaries.
not super popular because like people don't understand what
They
it
don't
means,
understand it at all.
and also, I mean, there are some pretty ridiculous people in the Libertarian Party.
Well,
There's some people with some ridiculous beliefs, but
well, it's not surprising for a lot of people to expect that libertarians are, gun-toting survivalists, right? That
Yeah.
want no government. That's typically
Yeah.
what
No,
the
there are.
first
Yeah.
thing you think is they want to dismantle
Right.
the government.
Yeah. Like when I told Jay, our resident communist, when the first time I told him he was that I was a libertarian. First thing he did was like argue about why we need roads and why we need government for those things. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm not saying I'm not one of those ANCAP, the
Right.
anarcho capitalists who says no government, they want a private police force and things like that. It's like, no, I mean, there are legitimate functions for government, but they've overstepped their powers a long time ago.
Right.
And that's where I'm coming from.
Well, this is hope. This is what I like to see
Yeah,
is hope. This is a young kid that wants to change things. He's at andreforseminole.com. So if you're at all
you should.
curious out there, go and check his site out just to see what the younger generation is trying to put out there and do for
You
themselves and
should.
for the
Yeah, you
country.
should get me that card next time you're around.
Well, just go to andreforseminole.com and you'll
You
have
know what?
all
I
the
will.
information you want.
I'll see if I can get him on the show.
Yeah, that would be interesting. And
Yeah.
I'll put this challenge out there. If you're young and you want to see change, Facebook is not going to be how you do it.
Right.
Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, these are not avenues for making significant change. That's not necessarily how laws are going to get passed. But when you
Yeah.
get in there, when you get in the arena, when you understand politics and actually step up to the plate, that's what makes a difference. That's how the status quo is going to change. And the hope is that kids like this can get into politics and not be so brainwashed and forced to capitulate to the status quo
Hmm.
that politics has become. So I have hope for this kid. And more like him. I want to see more of that. This is, and I will say this. This is one of this is the one thing. Because I don't know a ton about her, but what is it? Cortez.
Mm.
Uh, I gotta give her props. That's a young woman who has made her way to Washington.
Yeah,
That's another
I
one.
can give
That's
you that.
another example of a kid out there pushing the dream and making it happen early and really making steps.
Yeah.
So more power to
And
him.
it's unfortunate that she's just like wrong, doesn't understand things. But yeah, no, she did have the ambition, and it worked out for her.
Well, overall, I'm gonna. This is one thing I will always say, John. There is no politician out there that you will agree with 100%.
Well, no,
None of us will, right?
right.
So yeah, they'll have differing views, this, that, and the other, but it is going to be the new blood, the young blood that can make a difference in Washington, that can make a difference in the politics that we have in this country, as long as it's not snowflake politics. That's the best way I can put it. No
Well,
snowflake
that's what
politics.
she's all about. So
Yeah. Well, hopefully she'll get past that and realize
yeah,
that things need to be solved from a different standpoint than just being
I
butthurt
doubt
all
it.
the time.
I doubt it.
All right, do you? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
possible. Yeah. But now, the another interesting thing that I saw, because I don't know if you've heard, John, but lately in the news, there's been some talk here and there about a border wall. I don't know if
I
you've
think
heard
I've heard
anything about
something
this.
about.
It's something
I
with
think I've heard something
Mexico,
about
right?
that. I thought it was Canada. Huh.
No, we're good with Canada. We just use
Okay.
the maple syrup defense there.
Right.
So there's an airline in Mexico called Aero Mexico, and they've put out a fun little commercial because I guess they just kind of wanted to really, I don't know, maybe take a little dig at the whole immigration thing, take a little dig at Donald Trump. So what I wanted to do was play this commercial and just
Yeah.
kind of get your take on it, see what you think. Because I think it's kind of funny, especially, and sad to say, I do find it humorous when Americans actually, I don't know, the best way to put it is get it a little taste of their own medicine, or a little, just a little eye opener that really makes people stop and think for a minute. But I'll pull this up and let's watch this, and you tell me, John, do you think, that it's the most horrible thing ever? Because I don't think it is. I think it's kind of cool. Here we go.
Okay.
Oh, what? Oh, you need to be able
No,
to see
go
it, don't
ahead.
you?
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, I mean, if you really want to see it, John, I'll share my screen with you, and then hopefully you can hear it and do all of those things, and
Yeah, we'll see what
that kind of
happens.
thing, and if not, then I surely just don't care.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I watched it earlier, so if I can't hear it, it's not a big deal.
It's not. It won't be a big deal.
I mean, I would like to hear it.
Let's see what we've got.
All right.
Let me see if I can get full screen, because me messing with cameras and all that stuff are just kind of a pain. Here we go.
Mexico's first destination is America. But America's first destination is not Mexico. So, we went to a typical American town to ask why they don't consider Mexico an option to travel to.
Would you consider going to Mexico?
No way.
The idea of going to Mexico is not something that I would foresee.
That's not my cup of tea.
Let me stay here in peace and let those folks stay on their side of the border.
Do you like tequila?
Yes.
Do you like burritos?
Yeah.
Do you like Mexico?
No.
And when your company name is Aeromexico, well, so how do we increase USA flights to Mexico if a big part of Americans just don't like Mexico? According to the Department of Homeland Security, Mexican immigration goes as far as the 1800s settling in on the South, meaning that a big percentage of Mexican ascendants in the USA doesn't even know it yet. So we did a DNA test to prove it and turn those results into discounts. The more Mexican they are, the more discount they get.
Joshua, you are 18% Mexican.
Oh, wow.
So you get 18% off to fly to Mexico. Charlotte, you are 14.4% Mexican. You're 22% Mexican.
That's bullshit. That is bullshit.
You are 18% Mexican.
Well, that's better than you.
So you get 22% off to fly to Mexico.
Oh, come on now. Seriously? Okay. That's for real. So what if I want to take my wife?
Eligible for a 15% discount to go to Mexico. What do you think about that?
I love discounts.
Sorry, Betsy. You're only 3% Mexican.
So we kept giving discounts all over Southern America in our travel agencies. DNA discounts. There are no borders within us.
DNA discounts. There are no borders within us.
That's
How
funny.
about that shit, John? How's that? Does that tell you
I don't know. I don't really care about that sort of thing.
It's kind of funny, though,
But-
isn't it?
I mean, I suppose.
Some of
I
those
mean, obviously they
reactions
hint-
were kind of, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. I
Well, I
ain't
mean, they- they're
22%
probably-
Mexican.
They were probably actors.
No, they said they
Yeah.
were. No, well, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go on maybe some minor legitimacy that maybe they told them to ham it up a little, but still, if they did actual DNA tests on these, it's not surprising. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of Americans have some Mexican blood or some Mexican DNA as well
Yeah,
as
the thing is,
German,
like-
as well as Scandinavian, whatever.
Mexican itself is not an ethnicity. There's several ethnicities that go into it. So I'm guessing if you had like a little bit of that, a little bit of they could just consider it Mexican.
Well, they'll trace where the DNA came. They can trace where the DNA
yeah.
comes from. So if
Yeah.
it actually came from that specific region, then it's going to qualify as Mexican. Now, that's not to say that it's I mean, what has Mexico been? There was, it was Spanish before that. It was
Aztec, Olmec,
Right.
Mayan. Not I think Incans was further south.
I mean, I
But-
don't believe that they lump it into just like Spanish DNA. Like you can't, that's too general. That's too broad. They can break it
Right.
down to whether it's like Spain or whether it's South American, or whether it's, even something like Cuban or that kind of thing. They can be very detailed on this. I've seen my brother's DNA numbers, and like they get down to 0.5% kind of thing, right? And it's very surprising what's out there, but I do find it funny that they went ahead and did this. I think I find that refreshing in a sense, because Mexico's not a bad place. They're not bad folks. They're really not. They're just folks on the other side of a border from us. They get a bad rap. Do what?
So they're not inherently bad. No.
I mean, I'm not going to knock anybody for wanting to go somewhere and find a better life, but it's, I will always question the tactics used to do it. If you want to come legally, do it the right way, and that's that. That's all I care about, right? Yep. The drug traffic and this, that, and the other, these are all bad things. I get it.
I don't care about the drugs. It's the consequences of the drugs, the violence inherent in having a black market in the first place.
And that's the key to it. I mean, the drug traffic may not, okay, so drugs are coming into the country, but it's everything that surrounds that happening that's the problem, right? Like you said. But I got to give them props. It was a good avenue to turn. It's one of those things it definitely makes you think. It's like, okay, so maybe we're not all that different, right? Maybe we're not. Maybe we're not. But I had to share it. I thought it was kind of fun.
Yeah,
I just do love that guy's reaction though. That's bullshit. Yeah, that's bullshit. Oh, 22%? Well, I can work with 22% because he was thinking that. He's like 22% off an airline. You don't get that.
Yep.
But,
that's funny.
And then the other woman, of course, I did like that. She had no plans to get it. Well, I do like discounts.
Who doesn't like discounts?
No offense to women out there, but that is kind of a standard with them. I have no intention of buying that. Oh, it's on sale? I'll take two.
Look how much money
Look how much money I saved you today. I spent $300 on these shoes, but I saved you $200 by buying them today.
Exactly. Oh my god.
I went to buy.
Hey, saved me $500 by not buying them at all.
Right. Exactly. Hey, and there was one other piece of interesting news that I saw today, and we're not wanting to get into a bunch of news, but this one kind of jumped out at me because this kind of hits a little bit close to home for us because we're both smokers, right? We both smoke cigarettes, and one of the biggest manufacturers of cigarettes is the Philip Morris Tobacco Company. Their mother company is Altria. And they have made an announcement that, and get this, John, they are going to stop making cigarettes.
Yeah, that's insane.
They're going to stop making analog cigarettes. Is
that what they're called?
Yes. You have e-cigarettes and vaping, right? So those are the digital version, and then regular cigarettes are called an analog.
Is that actually what they're called, or did you make that up?
We've been calling them analogs for a long time. I mean, ever since e-cigs came out, and I've written some articles here and there, and this, that, and the other, over the years since e-cigarettes came out, and the common reference to them is analogs versus.
I've just never heard that.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't really deal much with vaping and stuff like that, right? So, and that's typically where you're going to see that references on vape sites and stuff like that. But it goes back to the old clock thing, digital versus analog. So they are, Marlboro is looking to stop cigarette production forever in favor of smoke-free products. So they're going to be focusing on what's called an IQOS. It's a device that heats tobacco rather than burning it. Basically, like a vaporizer, right? That you would use for marijuana or you would use for herbs, whatever the case may be. But the upside to this is that it will potentially reduce the number of noxious chemicals found in cigarette smoke by 95%.
Pretty awesome.
But research is still being conducted on this. Now, this is not going to be an overnight thing, of course. This is not like, Marlboro's not going to be around starting tomorrow. But the thing that I want to find out, and they don't go into this too much, is one thing that we know about cigarettes is it's not just the nicotine that's in cigarettes, right? The tobacco anymore is what treated with so many different chemicals, right? You've seen the Truth commercials where they say, "Oh, there's rat poison and there's urine and there's like up to 1,000 different chemicals in cigarettes themselves." So my question is, my curiosity as this moves forward is if they're going to take all of that out of the tobacco, because I am of the opinion that nicotine is not the most addictive substance in cigarettes. I think there are chemicals in the cigarette that the tobacco is treated with that are, more of a catalyst for the addiction and the desire to smoke than the true nicotine itself, right? Now, nicotine is very addictive. Don't get me wrong. There's an addictive quality to it, but it is not as harmful as everyone makes it out to be, unless you eat it. Like if you ingest nicotine, it's a poison, right? You don't want to do that, right? But smoking it is, that's why vaping technically it's not as bad for you, although the FDA won't really approve it. Non-smoking, smoking quit alternative kind of thing. I don't know. That's how you're going to impress. If you can get all the shit out of tobacco, can we just if you're going to make a vape situation, I want to vape pure tobacco. But now the downside to that, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, a lot of those chemicals that are in there are actually government regulated.
Oh, sure.
The government forces them to put those. A lot of them are like pesticides and stuff when the plant's actually growing.
Right.
And a lot of that is, forced on them by the government. Not that they wouldn't do it, otherwise, but I just like to bring that up when people, talk about how dangerous they are and, all the different chemicals and stuff. Like, it's not all their fault, although a lot of it is, but
when you're talking, upwards to 1,000 different chemicals that can be associated with tobacco products, that tells me that it's at least equal parts of both. If the government is expecting certain chemicals to be used to safeguard it, whatever the case may be. But now the other avenue that Philip Morris is going to be going is, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of the company Kronos.
No.
But this is a company that, and this was back, this latest article is back in December of last year, but the talks and the information about it had been going on for a while. They have bought, they're diving into the cannabis market with a $2.4 billion investment in the Kronos Group, which is a Canadian medical and recreational marijuana company. So Marlboro is expecting to be one of the first cigarette manufacturers who is going to be ready to go, is their hope, and be on board whenever legalization happens in the country. My expectation is that they're probably going to target states where we already have recreational marijuana legal, and you'll eventually just be able to go down and buy yourself a pack of Marlboros.
Yeah, what's funny is I was talking about that a long time, like years ago, when the whole legalization thing was first like really coming up, and I was saying like, how cool would it be to be able to just go up to like Walgreens or something and be like, yeah, can I get a pack of Marlboro Kush menthols?
Right.
Like how...
Well, hopefully they won't be menthols. Hopefully we won't need to add anything to that.
Oh, menthol is awesome though.
Now, here's a question for you. We'll put a little hypothetical out there. If we have a cigarette company that is going to get into this, and they're not the only ones, by the way. You remember Cools? I forget the name. The company that owns Cools and everything. They're also doing the same thing. They're getting into they're planning on getting into the marijuana realm as well. But my question is this. Since marijuana is not really physically addictive, at best it's more psychologically addictive. Will tobacco companies take a page from cigarettes
and put nicotine in?
Not put nicotine in, but incorporate anything into marijuana cigarettes that would make them more addictive.
Yeah.
Sadly enough, you don't need to make marijuana addictive because people just want to smoke it. Right?
Right,
They're going to
yeah.
want to smoke it with or without addiction.
Right.
But I don't know. Do you?
I
What do
don't
you
know.
think?
I don't know because I think it would be. I think that would be really detrimental. Because like when you smoke cigarettes, it doesn't really give you like an alternate, feeling. Like you don't get high from smoking a cigarette. If you
No,
haven't had one in a long time, you might get a little lightheaded. You might get that nicotine rush.
sure.
But other than that, there's really no, real effects. Like you can legally smoke a cigarette while you're driving because it's not going to alter your consciousness in any way. But marijuana does do that. And so making it as addictive as cigarettes means that like while you're at work or something like that, you know what I mean? You're gonna want to smoke a marijuana cigarette, and that wouldn't be good for productivity, or it could be dangerous. If you're working around machinery, things
Well,
like that.
true, and I
So
understand that. So
I
hopefully
don't.
they wouldn't
Yeah,
do it.
yeah.
Well, there's
Hopefully not.
gonna, there's gonna be, marijuana legalization is going to be just like alcohol, and the bill that they've put forward, legislation 420, is specifically designed to make marijuana equate marijuana to alcohol. So you're going to have companies. Okay, no, you can't come to work drunk, so you can't come to work stoned either. I mean, it's just
Right.
going to be a thing.
Yeah.
It's not to say that you can't smoke it in your own time, but you can't do it at work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
Definitely.
going to be an assumed thing, and hopefully they'll do something smart, like come out with like I don't know, a saliva test, like a saliva strip. So if you think an employee is under the influence of marijuana while they're at work, give them a saliva strip, and then you got to send them home. Just like you would
Yeah.
if they came to work drunk. But you can
Yeah.
tell more obviously when someone's drunk versus necessarily when they're high. Because you can
Yeah.
pull off high without, get some Visine,
Right.
and you can kind of
Right.
pull off and nobody will know.
Yeah.
But I think I think that both of those moves are very interesting. It's a definite avenue for these companies to take that are going to help them stay on the market. I mean, the big tobacco has been around for a long time. I mean, that's really, this is the backbone of this country. Tobacco was, one of the biggest trade crops that we had in our
Yeah.
early days that really catapulted this country and its economy once we started trading it. But, they're hoping to make it a smokeless world. Apparently, there's only 15% of us left in America that are smoking.
Hey, that's a minority.
And well, and when I say smoking, I'm talking about the analogs,
Cigarettes.
right?
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
is what it is. But
It's old school.
hey, yeah, I know. Yeah, who smokes anymore?
Yeah.
Smokers. But it's a reality check. But I hate to say it, I just don't think there's any great alternatives because I know you were saying that it doesn't like affect your head, like marijuana does,
Right.
but it does. Whether it's psychological or not, it does affect your mood. Like it does have an impact if you're stressed or whatever. Actually, because they both nicotine and THC or marijuana target the same pleasure receptors.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly believe nicotine is a stronger substance in the fact that I have experimented with marijuana in the past. When I was in college, when I was young and in college, I smoked some.
Did you inhale though?
Oh, I did. Yes, I did.
Oh, okay.
I did. But I did find in the just the brief handful of times that I experimented with it that if I smoked a cigarette right after I smoked weed, my buzz was diminished.
Oh, see, I always got the opposite effect.
Nicotine will actually push those molecules out of the pleasure receptors and take their spots.
I don't know. That's weird because I always felt like it was, enhanced by smoking a cigarette immediately after.
How much of that is psychological? You got to ask yourself.
Yeah, no, it could be a placebo.
Yeah,
But that was actually a thing. Like in my friend group, we would sit there and stand in a circle like you do, and then everyone smokes
it's called
the
a
bowl,
circle
goes
jerk,
around.
John.
Yeah, or smoke the bowl, or blunt, or whatever it is, and then like as soon as it was done, everyone would be reaching in their pocket to grab a cigarette.
I
you know,
think
or
that's
passing one to someone who didn't have one, and then like we stand there and smoke a cigarette right after.
Was there a difference between menthols and regulars?
A couple of people smoked like regular full flavor cigarettes,
I just
and
didn't.
then I have always smoked menthol.
Were you just doing it because you were just like, okay, we've smoked a joint, I want a cigarette, or were you guys doing it like with the intent of trying to increase your buzz or enhance your buzz, whatever?
Well, so I think it started out as just like that's kind of we kind of just started as like a tradition. That's just kind of what we did, and then I think we noticed that it enhanced the buzz afterwards. You know what I mean? Like I don't think we went into it with the intention of it, but it was just like an observation that was made.
Yeah, I've always felt that my high was diminished, and I tested it. I would be like, okay, I'm going to smoke a cigarette before I smoke the bowl, and then just try not to smoke a cigarette for a while after.
Right.
And I did notice a difference, but that's why I say I looked into it a little bit, and there was I forget what source it was that I found that was talking about it, but it did talk about that nicotine molecules would actually take over the pleasure receptor. They would push in, and that's what makes nicotine so addictive, is because it's such a strong molecule, and it forms a better bond, a stronger bond with those pleasure receptors. So, but cigarettes gonna go away. Weed coming to your stores.
Luckily, my cigarettes are R.J. Reynolds, Winston-Salem.
Don't think for a minute that they haven't, that they're not prepared to go the way of Marlboro. Philip Morris will set a standard for this.
Yeah, so if it works out for them, they might make that transition. But I think they're going to watch them for a while and see how it works out.
I think that it's going to be kind of like that the baby boomer thing. Like, there's all us old school smokers are going to be the last of the smokers. Especially with the drops, because it was a significant drop. I want to say it was like 20-something%, and now it's dropped down to 15% of the population in America is smoking analog cigarettes. So that tells me it's on a major decline. It doesn't. It majorly impacted because all the cigarette companies have to provide information on how to quit using their products.
I don't think that's actually why. Because anyone who smokes cigarettes doesn't. They already know that it's dangerous, so I don't.
But there was legislation passed that the cigarette companies had to put avenues on their website to quit.
Yeah, but no, I think it's more the fact that vaping became like trendy, and it was like it was a social thing, where your friend got a cool vape, and then you have to go get one, so he's gonna get a bigger tank, and then it just kind of took off as this like trend, and so I think that's why actual cigarette use is in decline.
So tell me, do you think it's big tobacco that is keeping the FDA from giving the seal of approval on vape products? Because there has been long contention, but with vaping companies, because the FDA will not give them the all clear and support vaping.
I don't know. They can't have that much power over the FDA. Otherwise, they'd be able to stop legislation from forcing them to advertise against themselves.
Well, they have enough power over the FDA to keep putting out a product that kills almost 500,000 Americans a year.
Yeah.
That's
that just comes down to the fact that it's immoral to tell someone that they can't put something in their body if they don't want to, or if they want to. You don't own that person. You can't force them not to do that. That's why prohibition doesn't work. Prohibition of anything doesn't work.
Well, it goes back. To me, it goes back to the hypocrisy, right? Because whenever I did research on marijuana when I was in college, I was trying to be an advocate, this, that, and the other. Tobacco and alcohol are worse than marijuana. Yet
Yeah, oh yeah.
they are both legal in this country. They are both supported. It's
Yeah.
it's
Well,
mind-boggling what is allowed in this country.
well, so it's also a huge part of our culture, both tobacco and alcohol. And alcohol has been consumed forever. And I mean, it was always, it's always been legal, except for the short time during Prohibition that it wasn't. And even then, they still had like medicinal whiskey and other kind of workarounds to be able to allow people to drink. So I mean, it was never really super illegal.
But it's
But
still, well, during
yeah, yeah.
Prohibition, it was super fucking illegal. I
Well,
mean,
no,
they
what
were
I'm
driving
saying
down
is
the
they,
street blowing people away. I
yeah,
mean,
but then what I'm saying is that no, they even had like medicinal whiskey and things like that. Even the president at the time, I forget who it was drinking whiskey, during because he was drinking medicinal whiskey
but it's a
during
drug.
Prohibition.
But alcohol's a
Yeah, yeah,
drug.
no,
I
no,
mean, in
absolutely,
the
it is.
base
Yeah,
concept. And so is
yeah.
nicotine, right? So are cigarettes. They're a
Sure.
drug, in
And
effect.
tobacco is also a huge part of American culture,
Sure.
especially because it was what made us be able to survive as a nation. It was the first cash crop that we had.
Okay,
It was corn and tobacco.
but the one argument I'll make to that, slavery used to be a big thing in this country, too.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a big
There's
market.
there's a difference between harming yourself and harming others, and slavery obviously harms others.
There were slave owners that weren't harming their slaves.
I
There were
mean,
slave
yeah, but
owners that
still,
had slaves that actually gave them money.
yeah, but I mean, still owning a person is harming them in the fact that you're taking rights away from them.
But they weren't citizens. They weren't even considered human. So,
Yeah, well, no,
but
they
that's
weren't
what I
like
say. I mean, we have a long
persons.
history of hypocrisy.
Oh, well, yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. Yeah.
it's you know, so it's one of those things. It's just, I look at it and I go, okay, it's, who so. I mean, it was long considered that big tobacco, and I've been hearing this since my younger years, that big tobacco was a big motivator for Washington money. I mean, they were constantly lobbying and everything. And the only thing that finally brought them in check was one of the biggest class action lawsuits in American history against the big tobacco companies,
Yeah.
and kind of put everything into perspective to where now, cigarettes are very much, they're bought all the time. People
Yeah.
are still smoking, but no, it's very frowned upon. People aren't happy about smoking anymore. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
it's
There's
one of those
even
things.
places like in cities, major cities, where you can't smoke within 15 feet of a entrance of a building. So like, it's not even you can't even just go outside and have a cigarette. Like you can't. You have to go away from a building, which in a city is very difficult to do.
Oh, and there's a lot of there's a lot of places that are just like when we were up in Jacksonville at the Mayo Clinic. They have the Mayo Clinic area, like it's the whole university, the hospitals, and everything. This whole, and you are not allowed to smoke anywhere on the Mayo Clinic property. Like anywhere that's within their borders, you're not allowed to smoke at all.
Yeah.
So, and college campuses are doing the same thing. They're not even designating areas for you to go smoke. You've got to be completely out and away from them. It was kind of funny when here in Florida, they passed the legislation that you can't smoke in public places like bars, restaurants, things like that, anywhere that serves food. But I remember there was a bar not too far from me, and the law went into place, and they had to kill smoking. So this bar got smart, and the location right next door to them in the shopping center that they were in was empty. So they went ahead and leased that, and they opened up a second bar under the same name, but just put a 2 there. It was blah 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 2, and it was the smoking bar. They didn't serve any food in there, so you could go in there and drink and smoke all you wanted. If you wanted food, you'd have to go and quit smoking and go into
And
the
go next
facility
door.
next door and sit and have your
Yeah.
drinks and food, and then go back over to the their second one. It's a very smart move. It was very funny when I saw it. I'm like, what is that? Why do they have a second one there? And then I went up and I read on the door, and it's like, this
Yeah.
is a facility that you can smoke in, and blah blah blah, this and that.
You know what's funny is because in Florida they did stop smoking in restaurants and such, but when I went to South Carolina for Thanksgiving a couple years ago, and we went to a restaurant, I was like blown away when they asked me, smoking or non-smoking, and I was like, holy shit, I haven't been asked
Yeah.
that in like since I was a teenager. Like holy shit.
Yeah, but you're
Yeah,
talking
they
about the
still
part.
had
Of, you're talking about one of those states that was like one of the biggest tobacco producers. South Carolina's and
Well,
North
no,
Carolina.
Virginia.
Well, Virginia,
was
North Carolina
Virginia,
was big in
West
the tobacco
Virginia.
industry, right?
Was South Carolina? I don't think South
North
Carolina
Carolina
was.
said North Carolina was, and I figured
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought South Carolina had
No,
some
South
strong
Carolina was
tobacco
mainly like
industry.
cotton and things like that.
Well, I thought
I don't.
tobacco
Maybe
was a strong product back.
maybe
I don't know how much now, but
it was. I don't
but
know.
you know
But yeah.
it falls into that southern mentality, right?
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. There's always you've got those states that are going to be your last holdouts.
Yeah, but no, I just thought that was funny.
Because
You
I
know,
don't think
just-
they've made it a federal law against smoking
No.
in public facilities yet, but
Yeah.
the day is coming. The day
Well,
is
apparently
coming.
in California, even at bars, you can't. Even a bar that doesn't sell food, you can't smoke there. Like you can't
There's
smoke anywhere.
there's almost no place in California you can actually smoke.
Yeah.
I remember a long while back, I read an article. They were trying to make it illegal for you to smoke in your house because it was
that's
it was
ridiculous.
it was a danger to, like, in apartments and stuff like that. It was a danger to other residents if something happened, started a fire, or whatever the case may be. So they were trying to outlaw
Yeah.
smoking in your own private home.
I've seen legislation in one that just passed about smoking in your car. You can get like $1,000 fine for
But-
smoking in your car.
But that's
But I've
understandable.
never seen in the house. I mean, it's understandable, but I don't agree with it. I mean,
Well,
your car.
there's the public safety issue that falls into it. So, for instance, look at all the fires that were going on in California, that have been going on in California over the last years. You don't want people driving around flicking cigarettes out. Here in Florida, look at our winter months. Some of the drives. When was the last time how often do we get rain through late fall and through the first of the year up into spring? We don't have a
Couple
lot.
of
And when
times,
we get
yeah.
those fire, those tinder warnings, right?
Wait, it actually just rained on Saturday.
Sure, but how much? It wasn't that much. Nothing close to what we get during the summer, right?
Oh yeah, during the summer it's nonstop.
Have you ever been since you've been in Florida, have you ever experienced one of our really dry seasons?
Yeah, we
With
actually
water
got in trouble,
rationing and-
in Deltona, we actually got in trouble because we had a bonfire in a friend's backyard, and the fire department showed up and made us put it out and like watched us put it out.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was pretty crazy. Never seen that happen before.
I always thought that was, I found that interesting that here in Florida you would have to worry about, rationing water. I'm like,
Yeah.
aren't we just sitting on top of a whole bunch of water right now with the aquifers
Right.
underneath? I mean, from my understanding from my geology class, so many years ago, the teacher was like, we sit on like limestone Swiss cheese. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
holes all underneath.
The water
filled
table
with
is
water.
like 6 feet. Like it's really not that far down.
No, that's why we don't have
and not only that,
basements.
but we're surrounded by water on 3 sides. All you gotta do is desalinate.
But yeah, it's there's I don't know. We may see the non-smokeless society by
Or the
before too
smokeless
long in our
society.
future. Or what did I say?
You said the non-smokeless,
Or
which means
non-smoking is
smoke
what I
full.
meant. Not
I know.
non-smoking.
Yeah, I know what you meant.
So that could be interesting. It'll be fun to see how this plays out. How Marlboro manages to pull it off. I
Yeah.
wonder which will come first: the shutdown of them producing cigarettes, or actually getting to go in and buy the packs of blunts.
Yeah,
Do you think they'll do joints or blunts?
they would probably do joints. They're smaller. They're
I
more
hope
the
so.
size of a cigarette.
I hope so.
You know,
It
they already
better be
have
some good
the
shit.
they already have the infrastructure in place to just pack joints.
Yeah, and they
into
just need to
cigarette
change the
tubes.
branding on the 20 or 30 different types of cigarettes they have for all the different strains they could do.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever have you
I guess.
like ever really looked at all the cigarette selections that are in your
Oh
average
yeah,
convenience store
tons.
just
My
from
guess.
one manufacturer, one company, or one brand, right?
Yeah. My guess of what they would do if they did do like packs of joints. My guess is that they're gonna use like really really weak, like low percentage THC, so that you would smoke like a bunch of them.
Well, I
You know
hope
what I
not,
mean?
because well,
Yeah.
that's gonna be the trick, though. I mean, you're not gonna have as much sales if people can just go to a dispensary and pick up some nugs and get
Yeah.
a better high, right?
Right.
So
So yeah,
it
I don't know. We'll
remains
have
to be
see.
seen. I figured they'll have like levels
Yeah, maybe.
with a more expensive cost by
Yeah.
strain.
Makes sense.
That way, the strains will be the what determines the price.
Yeah.
Um,
Get like that bush weed, the headache,
shit,
like super brown weed.
shit, we're already.
Yeah,
We
it's
can
already
run.
been about an hour.
I don't care if we run a little bit long. So, John,
I mean, I'm good.
I don't know. Do we have anybody in the chat right now? Is anybody
No,
out there
we
in
don't.
chat land? Well, that's a shame because we kind of wanted to do point counter. We wanted to do point counterpoint. I know Dante was in there earlier, but he just kind of did he drop out? Did we not see where
Yeah.
he went? He didn't say bye.
Yeah, we lost interest. No one likes us.
It's understandable. I could see nobody liking us. You're a
Yeah.
very unlikable person. Well,
True.
we don't have to go into that tonight, so we can look to do that next time around.
Well, hopefully we can do that with Midget B if he'll be
Yeah,
on.
that would be fun. Well, would that be point, counterpoint, and no point? He can take no point.
He's got one of those right on top of his head.
All right. Well, then. If we're not going to have, we could come up with our own topic, but
No, I mean, I think that's good. We're already about an hour.
yeah, we don't. We've talked our shit, and if nobody wants to like us and be around, I don't know.
Yeah, we should guilt them into being here.
Yeah.
You can never call your mother.
You
What's that? What's that
John,
voice you
you
do?
never call me. I keep asking you to call me just one time every month, and you never do. I look for the phone to ring, and it never rings. Just call me, John. I'm not saying you have to come over and have dinner all the time. I just need you to call me and let me know. Catch me up. Let me know how things are going.
Yep.
It's your mother, John.
Yep. Oh, good stuff.
You love your mom, don't you?
Oh,
or
yeah.
do you love my version of your mom?
Both.
Both. That's good. It's
Yeah.
important. All right, well, folks, we're going to wrap this up. If if you like what you're hearing, make sure and reach down there and hit the like button. If you want, you can hit the unlike button. That lets us know if we need to change up a little bit of what we're doing or talk about something more interesting than weed and
Cigarettes.
immigration and stupid things that nobody cares about. All these things that happen in our country. Hey, but do hit the subscribe button, and then that way you'll know the next time that we're going to have a show that you do or don't like coming on. John, we're somewhere else too, aren't we? Where can they reach us?
We're on Twitter at the Gen Gap P.
The Gen.
It's also
Gap.
the link is in the description, so go ahead and check that out. We could use some more followers, I think.
And I'll say this again, because this kid impressed me. If you're young, you give a shit about what's going on in this country, quit talking about it on Facebook and get out there and do something about it. Get involved. We need more people involved, John, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
We need discussions that are going on, but we need discussions that are finding solutions. So let's get to talking and let's make things happen. John, I'm about tired of doing this for the night, so let's look at doing something on Friday if you want to get together and have a little show. Folks, why don't you come by and see us on Friday? We'll be on our next episode. I believe that'll be our episode number 20. We'll be hitting the big 20, and hopefully we'll have some fun things to talk about. We usually don't. Or do, depending on your like or unlike preferences. But, John, it's been good. It's been real. It's been fun.
Always.
But it's not been real fun.
Right.
But you have yourself a good night, folks. John, you take it easy and have a good one, and we are going to be out of here.
All right, see you guys.
Peace out.